What kind of lessons have you all learned from Esu? Y'all both like
how much time we have.
Right. Like, how did you get introduced to Ifa? I said church.
And it's a legba. And everybody in the room stopped.
Like, I don't really know about Esu. I was actually scared of Esu.
I'm YouTubing it. You know, of course, big mistake. I do not advise.
Not advise.
Yes.
And Esu is not your clown.
You know, I knew Esu as the trickster. You know, that misconception that we call him.
I know. I absolutely go to my Esu shrine and help me with my people in at times.
One needs to be clear that they cannot tell Esu what to do.
And Esu literally carries all of our messages to all of the Orisa, including Olodumare. So
this Esu is for wealth. And this Esu is if I need to find one of my children. This Esu is for good relationships. And I was just astonished.
One thing, Esu requires payment. That's a sign of respect.
So you're appealing to, the Orisha, you're appealing to the universe to assist you and help you.
Right.
Let the universe assist you and help you. Right?
Yeah. Do not make your Esu off of what they say on YouTube. I know someone literally almost died.
Welcome to another episode of Voices of Iwa. I'm your host, Iya Omisegun, and Voices of Iwa is a podcast that amplifies the voices of women across the diaspora who are intentionally practicing our African traditional systems. This is the second season of Voices of Iwa, and this season we have been talking about the embodiment of the Orisha. And we're finally getting to the point, right? Like this is episode 7. And we're finally getting to the point now where we're actually going to be talking about the energies of the Orisha. We spent some time on some very fundamental aspects of our traditions, right? We spent time talking about the word Esheshe and what that means, what it doesn't mean. We talked about Ori. We talked about our character, which is a fundamental concept in African traditional systems. We talked to our elder who spoke to us about the importance of our African traditions right now, right? And why this is something that we should be talking about right now. We even talked about our ancestors and why that's important, why they are so vital to us. And as we go into this idea of embodiment, I want to share, before we introduce today's guest, I want to share the definition of embodiment because I know that, we have a variety of people that are listening to the show, people that have been, initiated for 25 years, people that, just found out what the word Orisha means, yesterday, people who don't practice the traditions at all and have been kind of curious. And as you're listening, this particular season, we're talking about embodiment, what that means, right? The values, the core understanding of what it actually means to express the energies of the Orisha. So the word embodiment means an expression of or give a tangible or visible form to an idea, a quality, or a feeling, right? So in these questions, you're not going to hear us talk a whole lot, right? There may not be a whole lot of talk about Oriki in specific or, Odus in specific, which are all very, very important, especially when we're talking about Ifa and we're talking about the Orisha. Because this season is really talking about the energy itself and the feeling itself, the questions are really geared towards how they make us, that feeling that we get when we invoke them. And we might still be sharing, so stay tuned because we might still share some Oriki and things like that, because those things are very, very important and vital to our traditions as well. I just want to make clear that that's not the topic of the season, and that's intentional because we really want to talk about how we live these traditions, right? And so it's not just about invoking the energy, but how we live with them each day. So today we are actually going to be talking about, I think, an Orisha that is often misunderstood, right? One that may even get a bad rap at times, and definitely the place that we want to start when we talk about the Orisha. We want to start with Esu or Esu. And in the studio with me today are two sisters who are actually both initiated to the energy of Esu. And I would love for you all to talk about share your journey a little bit. We always ask this first question of, how did you come to start living African, in African traditional systems? And just share us a little bit about yourself, what you do, who you are. I'm looking at you, first. For some reason, my
elder.
Right.
Greetings. I am Iya Esutayo Esurende, the daughter of Herminia, the granddaughter of Palmela, the great-granddaughter of Lillian. I give reverence and homage to all the mothers that have come before. So I was born by the river in a shack. No. Okay. Originally from New York, Queens, South Jamaica, Queens. And imagine being in the inner city of New York with special gifts, hearing and seeing spirits and entities. So it was a very challenging place for me. And going to school and dealing with people was difficult. My egg bay did not play. So when people, did things to me, they got the left and right cut of, so I stayed in trouble. I stayed fighting. Yeah, I was just having a real challenging time and asked my mother if I could move south with my grandparents.
Okay.
So I ended up from the inner city to farmland, and I loved it. And it was just a good place for me, for my energy, the outdoors, my cousins running around, barefoot, all that good stuff. And so I came to Atlanta for college, and I stayed. So I say I was always African tradition adjacent. I was always nearby. I was born into a family of artists. So in New York, we had the drumming and the dancing and, the verbiage and the language. But then coming to South Carolina, Bible Belt, I'm a preacher's kid. So it was going from that to the pews and, all things church. I've doctored a lot of hours in church. And so when I moved to Atlanta, I had also participated in a couple other spiritual systems.
Okay.
So I studied the Torah for many years. I was a Christian for some years. And both of those things, I learned a lot and felt I learned what I needed to learn. And when I moved to a certain part of Atlanta, I ended up in the Pan-African community. And so that felt good to me. It felt like home. And coming into knowledge of Ifa was by chance. Like a lot of people, I had a question. And it was, should I stay or should I go? And I already had the answer inside, but I wanted to hear it from a person, really, so I could then blame them. But I already knew what I was going to do. So I was speaking to an elder, and she gave me the number of a Babalawo. And I didn't know what that was. I went, sat on the mat, and I asked my question, and, he's doing his thing. And I'm like, yeah, tell me what that say. Yeah, just yes or no. That's all, I get my answer, I'm going to go. But he gave me my answer. I was like, woohoo, yeah. And so he was like, but I have some warnings for you. I have a message for you. And he was like, be careful this weekend with authority figures and your car and all of that. And I'm an Aries, so I was like, authority, schmorty. I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, you gave me my answer, all the rest of that stuff. Yeah, it is what it is. And lo and behold, that weekend, I could have been arrested.
Wow.
Yeah, me mouthing off that New York side, coming out to a officer. And when he put that hand on his pocket, on his waist, I said, okay, I think I've said enough today, you know. And then when I went back, for now what I know is an elbow, I didn't know. He just told me I need to come back. He looked at me and was like, didn't I tell you to watch out this weekend? And I was like, man, he is good. You know, I was like, what is this thing? You know, so that's when I was like, okay, this is good. This is serious.
Pay attention now.
Let me pay attention. What is this? And so he was like, you need your head cleansed. You need your head fed. So I want you to come back for my wife to do this. And when I did, the day I was coming, I was in a big argument. So I'm coming and I'm fussing. I should have said this and I should have said that. And when she did the work, I wouldn't close. She was like, okay, tell me really what's going on. And I just started crying. And so once I let that out, she was able to close. And I was like, okay, there's something here. There's really something here. Yeah. And that was my introduction. Yeah.
Wow. And you know, you and I, we've known each other for years, right? I always think about the fact how we met each other in the artist world, you know, when I was doing poetry, and you're an amazing visual artist.
Thank you.
So, I mean, whenever I think about the circle, right, like us just coming full circle to now. So,
Hello. Okay, so my name is Najmah Esuyemi Ogunsola. I am from Plainfield, New Jersey, a very small town. Our big one is P-Funk. So, you know, we got a few people out there, but, you know, it's a very, very small town. So talking about 2 middle schools, 1 high school. So, you know, if you haven't met the person that you graduated with, you'll meet them in high school. You know, that's my my upbringing. I would say I grew up in the Nation of Islam. Both of my parents are very devout Muslims. So they were the ones that turned away from their parents from Christianity, and they ended up going into the Nation of Islam and met up in Plainfield, and, you know, they had us. I have an older sister and a younger brother. I grew up in a very active, spiritually active house. So I didn't know exactly what that meant. You know, I didn't know what it was that I was experiencing. It wasn't like, you know, things falling off the ground, nothing that you see in movies, but you just feel the feeling. It was like a energetic, you know, strong energy just in the house. My grandparents, 2 of my uncles and my grandfather passed away in that house. So it was just like that energy was just kind of still stiff in there. And I remember I might have been 10. The first time I realized I had some level of, you know, connection to the spiritual world. I was in the bathtub, and it was like a lotion bottle sitting on the counter by the sink, and I was like, fall. And it fell. And I was like, get about here. Another time, you know, recently after my uncle transitioned, I saw him. And I was like, look, I don't want that type of Claire. Like, I don't, you know, this is not something that I was, you know, connected to. I was just kind of scared, honestly. I would say fast forward, I didn't really feel those type of energies until probably college. When I would go home, my aunt, she lived we have a lot of Victorian homes in Plainfield. So like, if you ever go inside of a Victorian home, my aunt used to own a house, Victorian home, and that was a very active house. And that's the house where you did hear the footsteps, you heard the people talking through the radio. You like, hold on now. Like, you know, my aunt would be downstairs, my little cousin would be somewhere playing, and then you'll hear footsteps in the hallways, and it was only 3 of us that lived in that house. So I was just like, okay, this ain't this ain't it. But, you know, I just, that's probably around that time during college is when I first started feeling like, you know, just a spiritual possessions at that time, not knowing what those were either, or how to, you know, control it or what it was. You know, I was by myself when those things happened. So it wasn't like, you know, I'm out here making a fool out of myself, you know, in front of other people. But, you know, I felt those energies like just intercept my spirit. And I was like, yeah, something is going on. So at the end of college, after I graduated in 2008 from Morgan State University, hello, I ended up moving here. I'd spent the year in Plainfield as a teacher, I was a permanent substitute at the time. And after I finished that 1 year out, I came out here. My mom already lived out here. So, you know, her and I, you know, moved in with each other. And I ended up meeting up with my big sister. So my prophyte, Shakia Cowan, Shango Bami, she introduced me into the beautiful world of First African. So, so First African was actually, I tell people all the time, and it's like, how did you get introduced to Ifa? I said church. And I, you know, because First African is such a beautiful space to be free to, you know, just be able to express different type of spiritualities while, you know, honoring the Christian, you know, understanding as well. And so when, you know, she first introduced me there, I was sitting, you know, with her a few Sundays, and then I got comfortable and joined Tamba Issa, our dance crew. You know, that's where I met you.
That's where we met each other,
yeah. And my current Ajibona Iya Omisegun, she was the very first person that introduced me into my current LeiSha, LeiSha Tinibu. So she, after I met her, it was kind of like up from there. I got my first Ifa reading. I was like crying on the mat because I was like, yo, I don't know you from cats and dogs. Like,
but you know me.
right? So he was just like, you know, saying everything that was going on and, you know, just helping me at least curtail what was going on with me spiritually at the time. And so it just helped doing, you know, at balls, doing the, you know, rogations, doing all the spiritual work that Ifa told me to do. And it just really, really settled my spirit, and it really helped me along my path. Then, you know, after that, get into a space where I was like 10 years later, maybe might have been 12 years later, got initiated. So, you know, it was time, you know. So I will be 4 years old in October, but you know, it was just time for me, even though I've been in the tradition for such a long time and I still feel like a baby. I think when you're just in this tradition, you still feel like a baby the whole time because you're still
maybe forever.
Baby forever. Because you're learning, you're trying to, you know, be in accordance with your destiny. You're trying to, you know, live life the way you're supposed to according to your readings and things like that. So yeah. And boom,
you're here.
We're here.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit, right? Because as I know for me, you know, I always talk about like going, and I was told that, you know, when I went to go get initiated or get my reading prior to some readings prior to initiation, and I just knew that I knew what I was going to get initiated to, right? And they were like, you know, no, you're going to get initiated to Oshun. And everybody has this thing about Oshun, but people know Oshun often, right?
Right.
So, you know, maybe people have dreams and, you know, of what that's going to be like. But then you all get told, you know, like, you have to initiate to Esu. Like, what was your, like, did y'all have questions? What was your thought process? Like, what did you feel when you were told, like, that this was in your destiny?
Well, originally I was told that I was Omo Ogun and Oshun. And this was at the very beginning. So I didn't know anything. So I'm YouTubing it. You know, of course, big mistake. I do not advise, but
do not advise.
Yes, do not advise. But I was on there trying to figure it out, find out what this means, who these are, you know, are. And my friend's daughter was going to go on the mat for her Yabo year. And she said, you know, just come on down with me. And so I went with her. We went to Florida. And her godmother, you know, as we were talking, I was like, well, they said Ogun. And she was like, I'm going to go check. So she went, and she was gone. I didn't know what she was doing, but she came back and was like, She was like, I've really consulted deeply, and it's a legba. And everybody in the room stopped. And so I'm like, what?
Right.
She was like, do you know who that is? I was like, no. And so she told me a little bit, but, I came back home and YouTubing it again, trying to find out a little more. Trying to find out a little more information. And then I, by another friend, was asked to come to an event. And it was an Odun. And so I walk in, I see everybody in their beautiful attire and, the drumming and the dancing and, it's just lovely. But I went and scooted in the back and I'm back there looking at everybody. Look outside, the children are all playing. And I was like, this feels good. I didn't know that at that time was really when it was solidified and was like the pivotal point, talk about crossroad points, that really my life changed. Because the people in that room, you were there, the people in that room ended up becoming pivotal parts of my life. Like our lives became fully integrated. And that was like truly the beginning of my journey. And so the Babalawo who was there, I went and got a reading from him. And he was like, yeah, it's Eshu. And when I started studying under him for a while, and then it was like, yeah, initiation is in your path. And they were like, you can do Ifa. But Eshu is over here doing flips. It was like, me, do me. So I, at that time, decided, okay, I'll go ahead and initiate. And yeah. So.
Yeah. You have a story?
Okay, so I was always on Mogun for a very long time, up until my initiation day. So we did.
That's when you really find out.
That's when you find out. So I'm over here like, yeah, Big Baba Ogun, about to, receive him, about to do this, So I walked in the room, the Baba Lay happened, and it was like, no. No. It was like, my little shishi over the shoulder, like, check again, make sure. Eshu. They had to break down everything.
Wow.
They had to break down every single thing. And
I've heard about moments like that, but no, I have never seen it. But I've heard about it.
Look, surprise. I was like, look, what? I was like, I don't really know about Eshu. Like, I was actually scared of Eshu. Like, just initially when I received my first Eshu, I was like, what up? Like, I couldn't really connect because it was just so much. His energy is very strong. So, I just kind of stayed away from him a little bit. And it was like, he pulled me right back. It was like, you're mine. So,
So describe that a little bit more, because let's talk about the energy of Eshu and what it's like to embody and work with that energy in specific.
Well, I would say when I first received my very first Eshu, he used to wake me up out of my sleep, like come, like try to talk to him and stuff like that. Cause I didn't really know how to connect with Eshu like that. So, I would give him his 1, 2, give him all his offerings and then, call it a day. And then he was like, come, like there's more. Come and sit and talk. Let's talk, let's communicate and whatever like that. So, just experiencing that, because at that time, I knew Eshu as the trickster, that misconception that we call him. And, I didn't really know that he's way deeper than that energy. So, so I'm like, I don't want to mess up nothing because I don't want to mess up my life, So that was literally like my mindset at the time, because, just not knowing, just being new, being fresh, trying to learn and sitting under other people, just trying to really understand. But I come to realize a lot of people don't really understand Eshu's energy even if they have been working, you know, in tradition for a long time, you know, I feel like just being a child of his, I'm starting to learn more. You know, I feel like I'm more comfortable in knowing who he is, you know, knowing that, you know, Eshu is Satan's, you know, that the words that they say about him, I say, you know, Samuel Crowder is the op, because he definitely, you know, destroyed the Eshu's image, and it kind of, you know, pushed out into the world where that's how we look at Eshu. Even if we don't say that Eshu is Satan, now we're saying that he's a trickster. And it's like, well, where did you get this information? Where did you get this information from? And why do you think that that's okay to talk about Eshu like that? You know, when Eshu literally carries all of our messages to all of the Orisa, including Olodumare. So, you know, where are we now in this space where we're saying that he's still a trickster? Even when you know, Googling him, you're still going to see
that's
trickster.
What you're going to see. Yeah.
You're going to see like this clown image. I'm like, no. No, Eshu's actually very serious. Yes. He's a very serious Orisha. And that's what I've come to, you know, experience him, you know, with these last 3 years, you know, so I'm just like, and as I still continue to walk through this journey, I'm like, you know, I'm learning so much more that Baba is he's very intentional with how he does his work. And I so appreciate that about him. Just period.
The misunderstood.
The misunderstood.
Yes. When I look at my life, you know, looking backwards, I can see the way my life parallels. Very misunderstood. Words being twisted, being blamed for stuff. And I wasn't even at the place. You know, it's like, you said I wasn't even there, you know, and things like that. So I see very much the embodiment of the path. People come and telling me everything from early childhood. You know, I sit down somewhere and adults are like, well, you know, such and such and you know, and all of that just through my entire life. And so I want to read one thing. I want to read one thing.
We love the knowledge.
This is from Esu Elegbara Ayodele Ogundipwe. It says, no Yoruba deity, culture hero, ancestor, or spirit force is more vivid, more colorful, more complex, more subtle, and more philosophically and aesthetically pleasing than Eshu. Eshu is not a trickster, phallic god, or devil, but Eshu, the Yoruba god of chance and uncertainty. And that's one of the main points, you know, I would like to get out there is that, no, Eshu is not the devil. Eshu is not a trickster. And Eshu is not your clown. You know, so I think, you know, really think about your thoughts. Like Eshu is the divine communicator. And takes your prayers back and forth to a room. You know, so why would a devil,
trickster,
a trickster, you know, care? Like, I believe the care is very deep. Divine justice, you know, really cares about what is happening to the people. I say that Eshu places before you decisions. And there's a silver platter and there's a broom. And when you're given, you're at the T, you know, of the crossroads, and you have to make that choice. Choose wisely, because either you're going to get that silver platter or you're going to get that broom to sweep up that mess. But Eshu didn't make you do it. Like people like, oh, the devil made me do it. Or look at what Eshu did. Eshu didn't do anything. You were placed with some options.
And you chose.
You chose your ego.
And now you have to be accountable. So divine accountability. And sometimes that does not feel good. And it's easy to blame something else than to look inward and say, oh, my bad, that was all me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, I thank you for that, right? Because I've definitely heard people be like, Eshu gonna mess with you, or this is when, Eshu's coming to mess with you, instead of taking like accountability for your own lack of decision making. I think I first understood even the importance, right, of who Eshu is in understanding like that on Opanifa, like Eshu is who sits right at the top, and like learning more, and I was like, that's super significant, right? And then learning more about Oshetora, and like you're saying, like him being responsible for helping to carry the messages, right? You like learning that every Orisha has a role, a significant role to play. So yeah, you talked a little bit about like crossroads, right? And this place of like decision making and divine decision making. Like how has working with Eshu helped you in your decision making, maybe like protocols or like how you make decisions for yourself?
I feel that one needs to be clear that they cannot tell Eshu what to do. Right? So during your time when, for Ebo, like, oh, Eshu, take this to here, or Eshu, take, just ask for guidance. Yeah. Like, take this where it needs to go. Because we don't even know all the Orisha. We don't even know
all of our ancestors.
Which one actually is needed for this offering to go to. So have faith and trust that Eshu has your back.
Yeah. And thank you for that. Even for myself, I'm going to watch that. Because, like sometimes you do think that, okay, that like, yeah, like this prayer needs to go here because this is what I'm asking for. But again, like you don't know nothing, right? You don't know nothing. And so you're appealing to, the Orisha, you're appealing to the universe to assist you and help you. Right. Let the universe assist you and help you, right? Yes. I was saying like, this is such a, with Aswarapan Meji being the reading of the year, the Odu of the year, right? It's really that notion, like everybody really taking that moment this year to like embody Oye Polu and understand like, I don't know, like for real, I don't know. And maybe sitting in that energy may be really good for us, like really good for us.
And I really think that Eshu challenges us to really consult our Ori more. Like Eshu doesn't make you make these crazy decisions. If you're not really taking care of your Ori, if you're not really meditating or sitting with yourself, honestly, you're just making decisions based off of what you may want rather than what you may need. And then you also making decisions based off your ego rather than, being in good character with yourself. So a lot of times we want things to happen and we want things to shift certain ways. And it's like, no. Because even I've, heard people, say, hey, if I get this to Eshu, he going to let this happen. And he'll let it happen, but you still going to have to pay for it after a while. It's going to come back up.
There's
where you're going to have to still do what you were supposed to do. So you can pull back and say, okay, this is exactly what I'm supposed to do rather than doing what I want to do. Because we can't, like you said, you cannot force the Orisha's hand. Orisha's going to do what they're supposed to do. And help you live out your destiny. It's up to you whether or not you want to live out your own destiny according to what you know about your destiny. But yeah.
That's, I want to piggyback on that with, praying. A lot of times we say, Eshu, open my roads or clear my path, but also clear your path of clarity within your own mind, that you're clearly able to hear the words, that you're clearly able to understand what is being said from any Orisha, or whomever walks with you, so it's not just open this door, shut this door. It's like having the inner work, inner ability to hear clearly.
Sure.
And Eshu will do that for you as well. But if you go and keep asking the same thing, wanting another answer, you'll get that other answer.
I have seen it with my own 2 eyes.
Yeah.
I'm like, After he said no, no a few times.
Go on and do it.
But then
Right.
like,
Okay,
go
let's
ahead.
see what
Now
happens.
you're going to figure it out.
No, I have absolutely seen people ask questions and then ask questions a different way so that they can get the answer that they want, and seen them really mess up their, really mess up things for themselves. So it's in those moments, like you said, where people are like, Eshu, came and, messed up my plans, but like, nah, bro, you
did that.
Right. You did that. That was your inability to follow. And I think that's part of, again, where a part of that energy, like lessons learned. I think, like the Orisa have no problem helping you to learn the lessons, right? Like,
and that's exactly that Esu energy.
Yeah.
He'll help you learn the lesson. If you don't want to listen or take heed to the advice, then he'll let you learn the lesson.
So, what kind of lessons have you all learned from Esu? Y'all both like. Is you really gonna ask me that?
Right.
How much time we have?
Right. That's why I'm talking so hard about it. Like, look, he's gonna make you learn these lessons.
Right.
No, because that was in the beginning too. Like, you heard, give him a little extra something, and he gonna say yes. He is gonna say yes, but you're gonna get caught up in your own stuff. And so, that has happened to me before. Just being ignorant to what Esu actually is for, how Esu actually works. Just having that level of ignorance at that time is just like, okay, you want to force how things can play in your I guess in your I don't know, just how have things play out to the way that you want it to play out, and you just really can't do that, and this is really honestly is disrespectful to the Orisa to try to do that. That's just my personal opinion, but I feel like just doing that is unacceptable, honestly, with all the rules that we have in this tradition. So
and people still do it. People still do it.
One thing, Eshu requires payment. So I think I thought that just because I was initiated, that things, Eshu was seeing everything and would just work things for me. And it's like, no, your Eshu cannot run dry. Give your payment and ask for your petition. Petition Eshu, come in. That's a sign of respect. Like, I don't expect you to just go running around here for me for free. Right? I don't like working for free.
Right.
I mean, I do charity sometimes, but pay
that's not
me.
how this works.
So be respectful. Bring your offering, bring your petition, your prayer, and don't come treating Eshu like a work dog. Like have some decorum and respect about yourself.
One of the things that we've been talking about, and you both have touched on it a little bit, like the importance of having your Ori right, before you go, before any Orisa, right? And so if you've been listening to the podcast, then you know that we've done we did an episode on Ori, right? And the importance of Ori. We also did an episode on Egungun and the importance of our ancestors, right? Even before getting to the Orisa, right? And if that is the work that you're doing, where you're cultivating, your own Ori, and you are cultivating and have established a good relationship with your ancestors, right? When you get to the Orisa, right, then there should be a level of discernment, right? Like your Ori should be able, you're talking about being able to hear and being able to discern and being able to ask, right, in accordance and in alignment with your destiny, right? If you've been doing that work the whole time, that should be really easy for you, right? And if you find that it's not easy for you, then there's some backtracking that you probably need to do. Some real backtracking that you probably need to do. So what I wanted to just talk about like maybe like embodying Esu's energy in real life, like in work, in relationships, right? I know that his energy also has a lot to do with, like you were talking about, like the divine communicator. And I know I absolutely go to my Esu shrine when I am having trouble communicating, right? Like to really assist me and help me with my people in at times, right? Because that can be a thing for me. So like, what does that look like? Like really embodying that that energy when you are like on the communication end of things.
I had to strongly use the energy of Esu for communication. Like I said, my words would be twisted, just totally taken out of context. Right. And I was like, I'm speaking English. I'm not even using encyclopedia words. I'm like, I'm saying, do not do that. Yeah. Or, but for some reason, the majority of my life, the communication, the understanding between people has been challenging. And so working that I can hear clearly and understand what is being said so that the person I'm communicating with would understand me clearly. So looking at myself in places, usually when I'm having trouble with someone, I look at myself and be like, where am I exhibiting this?
I see.
So if people are having a hard time understanding my communication, where am I having a hard time understanding and listening? And that has been maybe the largest area that working with Esu has been for me, is really working toward understanding, grace. If I'm asking for grace, do I give grace?
Right.
Yeah. If I'm asking to be heard, am I hearing? And sometimes giving people what they need. If I know you're a person who needs validation and I'm able to give it to you, don't hold it back, And for me also to think about, why are you even speaking? Why are you saying what you're saying? Really get to why do I feel this needs to be said? Why do I feel I need to be heard at this moment? Right. What is truly behind it? Am I speaking out of pain? Am I speaking out of wounds? Or am I speaking out of love?
Yeah.
And, criticism or critique? Or, so really working on my communication, thinking about how I make other people feel. Like, I used to really worry about, like, is this person mad at me?
Right.
Is this, that I'm an only child. So having friends was important. And so I used to really worry. So Esu took a lot of the F's away, like the cares away.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of contradictory that me not really caring what people think about me.
No,
now,
I get it.
Makes me think about how I treat people more. Because in the end, I really don't care what you think about me, but I do care about how I make you feel. And I allow people to be who they want me to be in their lives. I don't run behind people. I don't, try to explain myself because a lot of times they're not hearing anyway. And I just let it be.
Right. I would say about the same. I kind of feel like what Esu is doing for me is helping me with discernment on how to use my words and how to speak. Because even though if I have the greatest intentions, sometimes people may hear my words differently. It may fall on their ears as if I'm trying to probably say something that's, because I use a lot of play in my conversation. So, you know, sometimes, you know, if people are not in the mood, you know, he's helped me learn how to read the room sometimes. Because for me, most times I'm quiet. I'm a quiet person. And, you know, when it's time to get to know me and communicate, I'm also an Aries too. So F's have already not been good. Just in general. And so I think the F's are trying to learn to be gay, you know? So I think in reverse, it's kind of like, and I also grew up in a very nonchalant household. My family is nonchalant to the T. Like, you know, we just don't care about a lot of things. So I think what Esu is teaching me is to learn how to care, how to put my care in these certain spaces, even with my tongue, like how to utilize those words so I'm not, you know, causing harm where I'm not intentionally anyway, but just in general, learning how to speak in certain spaces, reading the room, you know, what to say in these type of moments. You know, if you don't have to say nothing, you don't have to say anything. You know, it's just not necessary for you to fill the dry air, the dry spaces sometimes. So, you know, just in a lot of times I had to learn that too, because I middle child, you feel unseen just in general sometimes. So you just stay, you know, try to stay low and keep quiet and everything like that. Even though I was the thug in my house, you know, my mother said, I'm surprised your brother is here because you was running the house. But I would still say that just in general, like, as, you know, when I started growing up, I realized that, you know, I have to, you know, I wanted to be heard, and, you know, I wanted to, you know, allow myself to speak more and to say more things. And then you get in spaces where your voice is not even, you know, respected in some spaces. So then at that point, you like, now y'all gonna hear me, like, you know. So I think what Esu is doing is just helping me balance that energy out so that I'm not, you know, not embarrassing myself at the end of the day, but also not disrespecting anyone, not, you know, offending people, but also just making sure that I'm allowing myself to grow in my own voice the way it should be and not how I want it to be. Back to the ego thing. But, you know, I feel like that's how Esu has shown up for me. And I do that in a lot of spaces, you know, work. You know, I'm a hairstylist, so, you know, I have to, you know, communicate. People telling me all their, everything. But, you know, if I'm working with someone that knows somebody else, I'm not sharing that information with them. You know, if they're talking to me about something, I don't, you know, cross communicate. That's never been my thing, you know, and I don't want to disrespect that. Even if they don't know, I'm not going to cross communicate, you know, like, you tell me something in confidence, that's where it's going to stay, you know. So I think that's a lot of things that Esu is definitely, and I didn't really, I've been doing that, but I feel like it's gotten more, you know, respect, you know, to the point where I'm not communicating that information just in general. So, yeah.
You know, the Esu is so vast. I remember visiting Baba Esu Leke, his compound in Oshogbo. And the first time that I went there, there was Esu upon Esu upon Esu upon Esu lined up, and he went down he just went down the line. And this Esu is for this, and this Esu is for that. This Esu is for wealth, and this Esu is if I need to find one of my children, because and I can't find. I'm gonna ask this Esu to bring my child home, and this Esu is for good relationships. And I was just astonished, right, about the vastness of Esu. And how much, again, that we don't know, you know. So can you all give like some advice or, you know, some offerings to the audience if like they're trying to connect with the energy of Esu, especially like in a very practical sense? How could they do so?
I would say just make sure that you attend to your Esu. If you have the icon, you just want to definitely attend to Esu every week. Just at least try to build that relationship, you know, give him his favorite things. You know, he likes the candy. He likes the gin. He's going to like the rum. He's going to like the smoke. He's going to like the roasted corn. He's going to just the things that we know that Esu loves, just make sure he gets it. And then just, even if you're not aware of how to pray, just talk to him. Just talk to him. Because you're going to, after you build that relationship, you're going to start knowing exactly what he needs. You're going to know how to take care of him, and then definitely speak to your elder, because I'm sure the person that gave it to you knows what you're supposed to be doing, how you're supposed to be attending to him. But just in general, if you just feel lost and things like that, just make sure you try to do at least a weekly connection with your Eshu so that he's not going dry, as my sis said, because he said, my enemies are the ones that don't feed me. So, you definitely want to make sure you take care of your Eshu so that he can open those roads for you and, get those prayers to where they need to be going. So, yeah.
Yes, I would say, another warning. Do not make your Eshu off of what they say on YouTube.
Yes.
I know someone
wow
who took a rock and followed the directions.
Don't make your own Eshu.
Yes.
Don't.
And literally almost died because he was mixing Ifa with Vodun, with, mysticism, other stuff. And literally black and red objects were coming toward him. I saw this person catch on fire, right?
Wow.
So let's start there.
That's a good place to start.
Right.
Let's start there.
Yeah. Find a teacher.
Find a teacher.
Please, a real life, I can touch you teacher.
Yes.
If you do not have the icon, I would say, for one, go to a T junction, to a Y junction, and talk, speak. Also, if you have even just some palm oil and an OB, and put them down together. I used to walk across the road and drop candy or drop corn, and that I had already prayed into. That's one of the definite places Eshu is, but Eshu is in many places.
Yeah.
Eshu is everywhere. At the in the bush, in the garbage heap, walking along the beach. That's why I said my Eshu, because I love the beach. So I'm walking along the beach talking the whole time. So, like I said, talk, give some offering. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
But have some discernment, So really work on connecting, truly work toward connecting, and don't be like, not a gimme.
Yeah.
But I would really like to have a relationship with you. Like any person. Nobody likes someone who only calls when they need something. So spend some time and getting to know your Ori, your Egun, your Egbe, your Orisa, whatever you are, putting your energy into. What are you giving your attention and energy to? That's what flourishes. So that would be the main thing is, if you have nothing, the power of the words. Eshu is divine words of Ashe. So your words have more power than anything. Give your heartfelt words at the junction, and you will be heard.
Yeah. I think something is buzzing in my Ori, because as people who are living this tradition, as Iya's talking about the crossroads and Y junctions, I want to implore everyone who lives this tradition to also be an environmentalist.
Right? Definitely.
So please don't leave. Right?
Don't
Plastic.
Yes.
Please don't leave. You're driving down the middle of the road and you see, like a goat head in the middle of the road. Right? No, and because I've seen it. Right? I've seen it, and people have seen it also.
Oh my God.
And so we have to, you have to be thoughtful.
Yeah,
like Mama Marimba was talking, and about African spiritual systems and about the African world view. And this is the part where it's just like, it has to line up for us and we have to disconnect from our Western, because we have to be holistic in our thought process, right? So if I'm leaving an offering and I'm leaving it on a styrofoam plate and I'm putting it in the middle of, a T-junction, you're hurting the environment. That doesn't make any sense. No. And that's not holistic. No. Right. You have to be thoughtful and think that through.
Right. Exactly.
And I just really wanted to take a moment to say that.
You said that too, because even take a moment when you're leaving your offerings, if you do see any type of litter on the ground, just pick it up. Like I've gone, even if I'm going to the river, if I see something that's sitting there, I'm going to pick it up and throw it away because, this is something that if we're going to be, these spiritual people, we have to make sure that we know that the holistic of the world needs
the
for
planet.
us to have the planet needs to be cleaned, and we have to be responsible for that. So
thank you.
I'm happy you definitely said that because it's so true.
Yeah, you have some books that you wanted to share.
Okay.
I would love for you to share them.
This is a really good book. I don't know if you want to hold it up and show it.
The camera's right there.
Okay. Esu Energy. Look, I don't know why I'm trying to, without my glasses.
Listen. It's maturity.
Right? Yes. Very good book, reading in-depth description of different aspects of Esu. Who is knocking on my floor? That's a good one. Esu Arts in America. So one thing, Esu is a creative, is an artist, is an entertainer, is a performer. So this has many paths of Esu. I don't know if you would call it paths, but many, types of Esu, like you were speaking, aspects of Esu. Very good history. And Esu is a divine communicator.
Yes.
Very good read by Najmah Freeman, Oloye Oshundamisi. Very recommended.
And it's a quick read too.
Quick read, very to the point. No confusion. Straightforward. So those are some good places to start to get off of YouTube.
Yes.
Awesome. And we'll a lot of times when people recommend books, everybody's like, where can I find the book? So we'll make sure that we put links to the books, so that you can purchase them if you'd like to and read. And again, we want to make sure we say this, right? Reading is fundamental. Yes. It's great. It's amazing. It's awesome. In this tradition, you do need mentors and teachers.
Yes.
So you can read until the cows come home. It's good. I suggest you, reading is good. We told you the other day, put down social media and read a book. Read some of those. And in this tradition, the way in which this works, right? You do need a trusted mentor. You do need a teacher. That is how our African spiritual systems work. Right? They're like Iya said, I can't believe people making that shoes. I'm like, no, ma'am, no, sir. Please don't. Please don't. I appreciate you all sharing your energy today, my Esu sisters. So on Voices of Iwa, we always end with a prayer. And so we would love to pray, and invoke and bring Esu's energy into the space to bless the people who are watching.
I know you were saying that yesterday.
Y'all knew it was coming. Y'all knew it was coming.
Join in.
I would like to maybe do a declaration and a wish for the people that may you find what you're looking for, what you desire in this journey. May the Obiabata push away death and disease. May the Orogbo give you victory. May the Oti bring you wealth. May the Omitutu pour down through your cracks and crevices, through your gaping holes and wounds. and be the healing balm that fills you with joy, love, peace, and happiness. May, as you learn, because with much is given, much is required, and a divided house will fall. So as we're learning and re-empowering ourselves, let us not turn that on our brothers and sisters. We have a real enemy that is trying to wipe us off of this earth. And these things are not coming to us for us to use against people we once stood with and declared our friendship and love. So may you have Ishegun over your own pain, that you're able to heal and grow in love and realize that all is one. What I do over here is felt over there. And may we walk in love. So may the love be the healer and the connector, that we have a strong community, that we have strong families, and that we're strong within ourselves. That is my prayer and wish for our people.
How do I follow up? Okay, so this is what I'm going to say. I just wish that we all repair our minds on the image of Esu. I pray that we allow Esu to do his work according to how he's supposed to do it. Because we were talking the other day, we were saying that, Esu could be, dancing in front of the Ajogun so that you can walk by, sitting with the Ajogun so that you can slide by and not get harmed by them. So my prayer is that everyone listens to their Ori, listen to get the help that they need by the elders that surround us. I pray that Esu continues to open our roads for continued success. May he keep away death. May he keep away harm. May he keep away all those energies that can cause you any type of confusion. Esu is not confusion. Esu is a direct communicator. So please allow those works to work for you and not for you to try to use yourself to work the work. So that's my prayer. And I just thank you, sister, for saying that, because you said everything. So I just topping it off just a little bit, but thank you. Yeah. That was beautiful.
May the OB always fall in your favor. And if it doesn't, know that you have divination and Elbo and Esu to help with that, because it is said that Ifa doesn't mean you will not have hard days, but it's there to help you through those days.
I appreciate you both so much.
This is amazing.
I'm glad that you all came. I appreciate you all for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment. We're in the app every day, and we are also going to have a talk back in the app and have an opportunity to dig a little deeper into the subject of Esu. You can ask questions. Again, and this app space is a space for us to continue to connect and to uplift each other as sisters and as women who follow these traditions. So we thank you for being here this evening. Have a lovely evening, and we will see you next week. Badabo.